Welcome to another video on Tableau. In this demo, I'll show you how you can create bar chart and its variation in Tableau. This is one of the videos of a series of videos I'll be producing on how to produce charts in Tableau. To start, remember that the Show Me toolbar here, the Show Me card here is one of the most effective and easiest way for you to be able to create charts. Not only you can create charts with the tool here, you can also look at what type of requirements you need, what type of variables you need in order to produce a particular chart. Now, for instance, we would like to create a bar chart, and if we move our cursor onto the bar chart here, it tells us that we need zero more dimension and one or more measures in order to be able to produce a bar chart. So, and this is why it's important that as a Tableau developer, you should understand the building blocks, the syntax, the structure of Tableau, and how variables actually talk to Tableau and how Tableau uses them in creating charts and what are the level of details and what are the order of operations in Tableau. So those are the sort of languages or building blocks of Tableau that you need to understand as a developer rather than just using dragging and drop onto a canvas to create a chart. So now, as you know, as I've explained in my previous videos, the Tableau classifies your variables into two categories of dimensions and measures. And dimensions are simply the categorical data or character-based data variables, and measures are numerical, mostly continuous numerical data variables that Tableau automatically detects and classifies it onto the list here. Now, as the specification explains, for the bar chart, we need a subcategory. We need a dimension, in which case subcategory could be one of our variable of choice. The next one could be sales, which is a measure variable. And as you can see, as soon as I selected both of these variables, I got a bunch of visualization types activated here. That Tableau is telling me that with these two variables which you just selected, you actually have the option of creating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 types of charts. And since we need to create a bar chart, we simply click on the bar chart and it populates the chart for us automatically. And by default, it populates a horizontal bar chart. And you can change that by clicking on the swap button here and change it to vertical in case you would like to change it vertical. You can also sort it by the order of descending here, and it goes from the highest sales to the lowest sales. And again, the operation of sorting or anything that relates to the calculation of the actual numerical data, actually it has to do with the measures. So if you're sorting, you're not sorting by the categories. You're actually sorting by the sales, which category has the highest sales. So now we have the bar chart here. The second way to create a bar chart is to actually simply dragging and dropping your dimension onto your column shelf and your measure onto the row shelf. And bingo, you get your bar chart automatically populated. And you sort it again. You can do the same thing. And remember that you can use a marks card to perform a variety of customization and formatting related tasks. For instance, if you would like to, since bar chart and line charts kind of, or resembles each other in terms of, because they both are looking at trends and looking at, categorical variation within categories, you can simply just change your bar chart to a line chart. Not much of effort needed, and you can also move back to the bar chart. And if you see a chart that, it's when you produce a chart, a bar chart, and you don't see the bar chart, you want to make sure that you have the option here set on bars. You can also play with the colors, to change the color type. You can also change the size of each of your bars by editing the size here. You can also add labels. For instance, you would like to add label. Let's say you would like to add the sales label to each of your bars. Simply drag and drop your sales measure onto the label, and bingo, you see your labels. You can also the tooltip. You can also make changes to the tooltip. Let's say right now we have the SAP category and the sales. You can also add extra indicators. As for instance, you would like to add profit. So you come and you have the profit now here, and click OK. And as you can see, not only do we see the sales, but we also see the profit for each of these categories. So those are the two basic ways to create a bar chart. Now that we were able to produce a bar chart, let's look at how we can create a stack bar chart. And again, stack bar chart is simply adding a category to a category. As you can see, we have these categories of sales items here. And if you would like to add a category within each of these bars, then we are looking at creating a stack bar chart. And even you can also look at the specification here by moving your cursor onto the chart. It's telling you that in order to create a stack bar chart, you need one or more dimension and one or more measure. So in which case we can add the dimension here now. Uh, we already have the subcategory dimension, which is subcategory of the sales items, and we would like to add the region dimension onto each of our bars. Now, simply drag and drop it onto your color, and there you go. We see now that our each of our categories are now clustered or stacked by the categories of regions. So for instance, in phones, we have four categories. Each phones actually, we can actually now project sales of each of the phones by their categories or regions. And same thing with the chairs. Now, for instance, we can see this is a very, very effective way to be able to project from various categories. And again, as you can see, our south region actually had the least amount of sales among the phones. The phones didn't do well, and the phone sales didn't do well in the south, while the highest sales actually been in the east for the phones. Same thing with the chairs. The chairs that had the least amount of sales in the south, while it had the highest amount of sales in the west. So that's how you can create stack bar charts. Another way to do it is simply uh, selecting three of your categories, two dimensions and one measure in this case, and then clicking on your chart. And you can see the stack bar chart is activated. And there you go. You see the same thing. The only difference is that I apologize. I apologize. I used the segment. I was not supposed to use segment. I was supposed to use the region. So I have a subcategory, the region, and the sales, and I click on stack bar chart, and there you go. And as you can see, now we have the same thing, except that we did not have the labels. Now we have the labels. The last variation of a bar chart is called a side by side bar chart. So as the name implies, it's a bar chart where you can put multiple categories side by side. And let me show you what that is. So again, the first basic way is to use just like the case of a stack bar chart, use two dimension variables, and then use one measure, and then click on side by side. And as you can see, now we have our now we have our cell items categorized or broken down by their categories of regions, except that they are side by side by their regions. They're not side by side by their items. So to change that, you can just simply bring region onto the subcategory, and you can see that each item category are now broken into the categories of the region. And same thing if you would like to do it manually, simply bring your subcategory onto the shelf and then bring your measure onto the shelf. Now we have a bar chart, and now to introduce the side by side categorization, bring your next dimension, in which case could be the region. And now we have side by side for each of the items. And if you'd like to categorize them by only subcategories, and just simply move there, just simply swap their positions, and now you can see them broken down into regions. So there's not a one way to create bar charts. There are a variety of ways, and again, as I always say, creating visualization involves artistic approach as much as it involves scientific approach. So the scientific approach requires you to learn the context of your variable as well as the structure and the foundation and building block of the variable. Then the artistic approach requires you to actually think through what you would really like to produce and how you like to produce and how you like to customize and format it in order to make it visually appealing for your audience or for your users. I hope that you found this video helpful. Thank you so much.